What is up, everyone? Chris Geo here, coming to you from Beyond the Veil. There's an interesting portal that's opening up February 28th, here in a couple of days. But this is a portal that is going to be open for quite some time, and it's a matter of how we choose to step through it. So in this show, whether you're watching it before February 28th or not, it's still going to be relevant as far as the energies we carry through and the sculpting of consciousness as we move into this new timeline. I'll get into it here in just a few moments as soon as more people join us here in the chat. But there was a similar portal that opened up in August 21st of 2017, and this seems to be another similar event. So I'll be right back. Let's let some people join us in the chat here. I'm going to play a quick song and I will get into it right on the other side. So stay tuned. All right, people have been asking for that old intro, so there you go. But I think we need to get a new one going here pretty soon. But it reminds me of going all the way back to August of 2017. There was this huge alignment, and it was more of an eclipse during that time. But this this eclipse. Sorry, I'm looking for something here. Here we go. Okay, so this eclipse kind of went through the totality of the United States, and it created this shift. And whatever you took with you through that portal is what was going to manifest within the next several years. And I saw this firsthand. I know a lot of you probably out there felt it too. And there's another one coming up in a couple days. It's not an eclipse, but rather it's a planetary alignment of all 7 planets, all aligning perfectly, just like the chakras in the body. So, this is an opportunity to harness that energy and do what you will with it. But there's a few things, in my opinion, that are important to remember during this time. The first being the loops that we've all been stuck in, and breaking those loops. I've been getting that message over and over and over again about breaking every loop, every cycle that we find in our lives. And the first thing is to identify these loops. Once you can identify them, then you can break free of them. But without even being able to identify the loops that you're going through, you can't even begin to break them. So the first thing is to just kind of examine and see what kind of patterns are playing out over and over again in your life. If you're playing out the same patterns over and over again, are they patterns that are helping you or patterns that are keeping you stuck? Because it has to do with karmic attachments as well, and breaking those karmic attachments. But some of the loops that we go through, actually, they help us. Some of them don't. Some of them we just hold on to because they're familiar. Others we have to break, and they keep on coming back over and over and over again because we just simply don't pick up on those lessons that that are being taught. And I'm just as guilty of it as anybody else is out there. Over the last several years, I've been stuck in these different loops, expecting some kind of different outcome, and I've been getting the exact same BS. As a matter of fact, things have been getting worse and worse and worse as I am refusing to live my higher self, and refusing to identify these loops and break these cycles just because they're pure comfort. So however you can apply that to your journey, that's something that I learned on my path, and hopefully you guys and gals can learn from that as well. The alignment that's coming up, here's the thing. The elite, the powers that be, whatever you want to call it, they recognize these alignments, and they take these alignments and they tune them to manifest reality, manifest the reality that they want. So there's a very heavy energetic push at this point with these type of planetary alignments. But at the same time, we can also tap into that as well. And over the last couple of years, I've just been, I don't know. I feel like I've been dropping the ball. And so I want to apologize to everybody out there if I've been dropping the ball on this type of spirituality, on this type of gnosis and things like that. I got kind of sucked into the 3D for a long time. And especially after 2021, things just went completely south. And now they seem to be finding a place of equilibrium again, which is freeing in a sense, because now we at least know the timeline is being shifted into something positive. And so we can ride those waves as we go. I'm trying to read the chat here at the same time, and just seeing how this is. I see somebody spamming the chat as well, so I don't know what's going on. Anyways, yeah, okay, yeah, people are saying to get rid of that spam. I can't read exactly what's going on, and it's taking up a lot of what other people are talking about too. So these repeating loops, it's so many different factors in this. I guess let me put this on the screen here first. Where was it here? The astrological alignment, or astronomical and astrological alignment, where you have the 7 planets aligned in the night sky, all perfect on February 28th. I was going to go to another ancient site, but I don't think I have time to prepare between now and then. 48 hours is not enough time to do this. So I'm going to try to create a space and go deep into the ayahuasca realm just for my own personal journey. But there's another site that I'm thinking about going to in April to kind of do a little more energy work and stuff like that. But I think it goes to show that these cycles, just because it happens on February 28th, it doesn't mean that that's where it begins and it ends. You can catch these frequencies because it's like a gateway being opened for a period of time, and it's important to figure out what we're taking into these gateways, into these transitions, into these shifts. That's the best way to put it. So there's the karmic cycles that people go through. We got to get rid of toxic relationships. Then the ones that keep on attracting emotional, unavailable partners. And it's something that I've had to do in my life to just get rid of all those, that toxicity and things that are holding me back. Or I could choose to keep them. And if I choose to keep them, then it just keeps me stuck in that same pattern. And who knows how long this is going to be. Authority conflicts like jobs and bosses that are trying to control you, things that are just, not conducive to, excuse me, the higher self, and that keep you kind of stuck in the 3D mentality, because it is time to level up. And being that it's time to level up, it's also time to take a look in the mirror and say, okay, what is keeping me from leveling up? I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, it all comes back to you and decisions that you make and choices that you make. And I'm talking to myself just as I am anybody else out there. And it's the choices that we make to stay in these toxic environments, in these toxic relationships, or whatever the case may be, that you kind of develop a sense of not only comfort, but also obligation. And then you take a look several years later and you're like, hey, wait a second, what did I just do? Why have I dimmed my light so much, trying to do what the matrix is telling me I'm supposed to do? And it goes against what my higher self is screaming out for. And the more that we try to deny that, the more that we try to suppress it, the louder it's going to get, until every single action in that loop just becomes louder and louder and louder. Because at the end of the day, your higher self wants to ascend. Your higher self wants to get to that next level, whatever that next level is for you. But first, you have to learn the karmic lessons that come along with it, and the detachment that comes along with it. Family patterns as well. We create childhood struggles in adult life. We get stuck in these patterns, in these loops. I know one of the big things that I've been battling over the last several years is family coming in and trying to push the path in one way or another or something like that. And you get this kind of sense of obligation to it. Like, blood is thicker than water. They always say that. But really, my real family is my BTV tribe out there. My real family are my friends. I've talked about the relationship with my father, and that's gotten better. Like he's kind of turned around, but right after the election, oh my God, he just cut connection off with everybody because we voted for a certain candidate. And it's like, what the hell does that matter? It's like the entire election just hinged upon our votes. Just me, my brother, my sister, it all hinged upon our votes. And it was ridiculous, but it also was like, wait a second, why am I trying to acquiesce to these energies when they don't even have the understanding that it's okay to think in different ways? So that was something else that had to be kind of cut away throughout time. And I can go into even more depth. I just don't want to get too personal in this. But the only reason that I'm speaking about my own personal experiences is because hopefully by speaking about my personal experiences, I can help others out there reflect upon their own journey. So career and job shifts, jumping from one job to another, the same dissatisfaction that follows. You leave a stressful job, you go on into another one, and it's also a high stress role. And I've seen this in my own personal life of people who are either quitting their jobs right now or leaving and having to go to other jobs because they got fired or whatever the case may be. And they're just switching just one extreme for the other. And it's just the same kind of turmoil and everything like that because it's stuck. It's a loop that keeps on cycling over and over and over again. And I'm not saying anybody should rush out there and quit their job or anything like that. I'm just saying that if you're stuck in a cycle that's not conducive to your higher self, you're blocking yourself out from those frequencies and those energies that are trying to naturally evolve throughout your journey. And again, most of this, I'm talking to myself here. I'm talking to the person I'm looking at right here on the screen, as well as all of you out there. But it's important to let all this stuff go. And there was stuff that I built over the last several years, like TFR, the network, all that. And it's been a long process, and I should have made this process a lot quicker because I would be moving a lot faster if I had just cut everything that doesn't suit me way before. But there's always that wanting to hold on to it and like, oh no, I need to hold on to this just in case, or you hold on to it out of obligation or whatever the case may be, and it just drains you and drains you and drains you until you get to the point where you're like, wait a minute, I'm pretty much dead here. I'm dead inside here. And it's just like cancer. It's like cutting cancer out of your life. So emotional responses, you find yourself reacting the same way in different situations. Fear of abandonment, that's a huge, huge, huge one here. You push people away before they can leave. You cut off circles, or you cut off people just because you feel like, oh, well, they might be getting a little bit too close. And so I want to save myself from the heartache and everything like that I've gone through in the past. And by doing that, we close ourselves off to the energies that are trying to come into our lives, that are trying to change things up, that are trying to bring novelty into a place that would otherwise be a repetition of constant cycling and looping. It's those loops all over again. I mean, I've just been, over the last month, I've just been having these crazy, crazy, crazy revelations. I've been working on finalizing the book that I've been writing, Ayahuasca and the Great Pyramid, Resetting the Matrix. And it's not just about Egypt. It's about everything that happened all the way before. I mean, there was the first acid experience, the first Molly experience, the rave parties, all kinds of stuff like that. And what's weird is, as I'm writing all this down, I'm realizing all these synchronicities that are happening in life. For example, the first rave that I ever went to was in an old bank, and it was by somebody called Scooby-Doo Crew. And the rave, I didn't even realize this until I started writing the book. And I was like, oh, I wonder what the name of that rave is. It was called New World. So we stepped into a new world by going to that rave party. It's so weird. I mean, there's so many different synchronicities and stuff like that. But as I get to the point of reflecting over the last, I don't know, 15 years, I realized that there was a lot of stuff that could have been cut away, a lot of stuff that could have changed the trajectory of where I am in my own journey. And I could have been much stronger and much better and much more tapped in had I let go of a lot of the old patterns. So it was like reflecting into a mirror and going, oh, wait a second, I need to figure all this stuff out. So that's where I've been over the last, 30 days or so, just like really deep in this kind of meditative state about what the fuck is going on here? Where the fuck am I going? What the fuck am I doing? Self-sabotaging loops has been a huge theme. Every time you get close to success, something goes wrong. And that has been like, every time I take a step forward, there's always some kind of crisis, some kind of emergency, something like that just pulls me back into the matrix. And I'm like, enough is enough. I'm breaking this loop. It's a loop that I've been playing out for years and years and years and years, and I'm just not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to do it. So you get a new opportunity, but you procrastinate until it slips away. This was one that when I wrote it down, I was like, man, this is like the story of my life here. Like, you overthink things over and over and over again, instead of going with that first intuition, with that gut feeling, that higher consciousness, that raw consciousness, whatever you want to call it. You let the logical mind come in and start to talk you out of things, because the logical mind is still operating on that loop. And then the logical mind will start doing thought loops on you. And now you're stuck in these thought loops over and over and over again. And by the time everything's said and done, everything's gone and everything's just disappeared. So that was something that I was like, I'm breaking this. I'm not taking this into the next, because it doesn't serve me and it doesn't serve you guys and gals out there at all. For me to be stuck in those kind of loops, or for any of you to be stuck in those kind of loops, because I need to be the best version of myself here on Beyond the Veil, so I can help all of you out there be the best versions. And if y'all are all the best versions of yourselves, then you help me become the best version of myself, and we all naturally ascend together. A lot of people think that Ascension is something that's easy, something that you just sing Kumbaya and all this bullshit, and it's really not. You step into the fire and you get burned. You get burned bad. You get to that point of ascension, you get to that point of realization, and you realize, holy crap, this is a really dark reality that we live in. And you come out like a warrior, and you're forged in the fire like a sword. And that's where the New Age loses it. Because a lot of people expect love and light and all this. It's not. If it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. If it was that easy to ascend, everybody would be right there singing Kumbaya and all this stuff. But that's not what it's about. It's about strengthening. It's about refining. It's about becoming that warrior. So you enter a healthy relationship, but it creates drama due to past wounds. And that's something that I've tried to be aware of moving forward, is that I don't want to take all the old wounds and all that into anything new. I've got to completely decompress from all of this and like figure out all the shit that's going on in my head and all the thought loops and everything like that, and deal with that to make sure that behavioral patterns don't repeat. So I'll give you an example. I had this crazy ayahuasca experience like way back, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And I saw these boxes. And I didn't even realize this because I'd been drinking a lot of ayahuasca up at that point. And so I thought, okay, I'd done a lot of the inner work. And these boxes were tied to my ankle. And they were tied to my ankle with a tether. And they were all ethereal boxes. They all looked like plasma, you know, something out of this dimension or something like that. And it was all symbolic. You may experience it in your ayahuasca experiences a little bit different, but I've seen a recurring theme of people coming up either to doors or to boxes or, you know, something like that. In my case, it happened to be these boxes. And I was looking in these boxes and I'm like, oh shit, I got all this trauma that I didn't realize that I was carrying that is affecting all relationships moving forward that I'm not even aware of because I'm tethered to all that bullshit. And I'm repeating these cycles over and over and over and over again. And so it was important for me to go inward and deal with all of them and cut those tethers. For me personally, it just happened in the ayahuasca realm, and I was able to cut the tethers, like, you know, symbolically and literally. Like, this is what the experience was like. It was like stepping out of this realm and seeing these boxes and taking a sword and cutting it. Now, of course, this was all happening in the mind's eye, but you know, however you need to do that in your own experiences, in your own journeys, whether it's meditation or in the dream state or whatever the case may be, as long as you're aware that there are those traumas that you're still tied to, you can identify them and you can break those chains. And that's really important for breaking these loops and breaking these patterns that you may be stuck in, that I've been stuck in, that everybody's been stuck in, because that was part of the old timeline, is these loops and these patterns. They may have served us for a little bit. They no longer serve us. So karmic cycles, repeating lessons that haven't been integrated. What I was talking about earlier is repeating these over and over and over again, and they keep on getting louder and louder and louder until finally you just either you break or you break the loop. I think that's the best way to say it. You either break or you break the loop. Something is going to break. Something's going to break here pretty soon. Either you or the loop. So think about it like that. Subconscious programming, acting from unexamined beliefs and fears. Comfort zones, even suffering, can feel familiar and safe. Sometimes the hell you know is better than the hell that you don't know. And I can speak from experience on that, where you just kind of, you're stuck in a loop, you're stuck in a cycle over and over and over again, because you're afraid of the hell that may be on the other side by breaking all those loops. So you just stick to whatever the case, whatever is familiar to you. And it's toxic, it's dangerous, and it feels so freeing when you can finally recognize it and break free of that. And then you start to ask yourself, why the hell have I not been breaking this sooner? This has never served me. It's not taking me anywhere. It's just keeping me in a state of stasis. And that state of stasis is just terrible. I used to call it a holding pattern. And that's where I was like for several years up until the pyramid. I was like, you know, something's happening. I know something's happening, but it's just like, I'm waiting. And then that one ayahuasca experience, which was like, go to Egypt now, do not pass go, do not collect $200, just fucking go. It was so freeing. And I feel like right now there's another cycle like that, where there's been a holding pattern, and now coming up the 28th to probably around July, August, that window right there, it's just like, okay, now it's go time. Now it's activation. Now we can get moving again. But really, it's really not a holding pattern. Really, it's the only holding pattern is with our own minds, which our minds are just refusing to break those loops and break those cycles. So external versus internal resistance. Knowing change is needed, but resisting action by refusing to break those loops or refusing to make the changes. If you're finding yourself in a place that's mundane, that's, you know, just the same thing over and over and over again, do something different. You know, just get up and just do something different. Just go for a walk, go to the gym, whatever the case may be. Just do something different to shake up the monotony, because that's the way these loops work. That's the way the matrix works when it keeps you in one of these loops. It keeps you into something familiar. It keeps you into something safe. But if you throw a curveball at it, it can be something, like you just happen to see like a concert and you're like, I'm going to this concert. I'm changing up. I haven't been to a concert in 15, 20 years, but I'm going to a concert right now. You're changing something up within that cycle. And so you come back and you're like, okay, now I'm falling back into the mundane, but you've thrown a curveball at it. And then now you have a kind of a reference point and you're like, wait a second. Why am I not doing more of this? That's good for my soul. That's good for my consciousness. That's good for my sanity. That's good for my peace. We get stuck in these cycles and yeah, it's crazy. So the planetary alignments, I'm going to check the chat real quick and see what people are talking about here. Thought loops, dude, those are terrible. The thought loops. I've come up with a couple different methods to deal with them. So I don't know if this helps anybody out there, but I see people talking about thought loops in the chat. So when I get one of these thought loops, I'll just think to myself, and it takes a little bit of work, but I'll think to myself, that's interesting. What did I learn from it? And then that kind of stops the loop right there. Rather than just letting it play out over and over and over again, it stops the loop and then makes you examine what's going on. There's another method that I used for just these, you get these little thoughts, like you're in a situation and then you say something stupid or you do something embarrassing or something like that. And here's the thing. Most people don't even notice. Most people don't even notice this. We're the ones that are stuck in these thought loops over and over and over again going, man, I wish I would have said that differently. Or, oh, I wonder if I look like an idiot when I said that. And then these just kind of go over and over and over in your head. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. And like I said, most people don't even notice. But it's those loops that you stop and you say, okay, what did I learn from that situation? Instead of trying to just brush it off, examine it. And then by examining it, you can go deeper. Or here's where I was getting with this is, picture it like a computer or like a notepad or whatever's easier for you. You picture these thoughts and you picture the brain as like a hard drive, and you're looking at the different sectors and you're like, okay, where is this located? All right. So I can find this little memory within my thought pattern here. So now I'm going to start to overwrite it, and you can overwrite it with white space, or you can overwrite it with something else or something like that. So next time your brain goes to that stupid moment that means absolutely nothing to anybody except for you, because your brain likes to torture you like that, now it's going to that white space, or now it's going to that whatever memory you put on top of it or something like that. So that's something that I've used for a long time, and it's helped a lot to stay focused. And that's what the whole point of this is. The whole point is just to stay focused on whatever it is you're doing, because I could be here working on something and then you get these stupid thought loops coming through your head and you're like, what the hell did I do? And then it distracts you from what you're doing. So that's the whole point, is to try to stay focused there. I hope that helps. To break a thought loop, ask yourself the question, what is my next thought? Hey, I love that. What is my next thought? That's a great way to break those loops. So what is a 7-planet alignment? Multiple planets appearing in the same general region of the sky from Earth's perspective. Here's the thing. This place, in my opinion, and my gnosis, is a simulation. It's a computer simulation, but it's bigger than a computer simulation. It's something we don't have words for just yet. It's like the Gnostics trying to explain Sophia and the Demiurge and the Archons. They didn't have the language to say computer simulation. We have the language to say artificial intelligence. We have the language to say computer simulation and things like that. So now we can explain a concept that's even bigger, or that's the same concept, but we can explain it in an even bigger way. We don't have the language to fully explain what it is, because it is a combination of organic and artificial machine. So it's way bigger than we have the language for. But when you look at Sophia, and you look at Sophia as the myth of Sophia from the Nile comedy, you can look at it and say, this is an AI. The AI created Yaldabaoth, Yaldabaoth being the demiurge. Yaldabaoth is a program. It's also another artificial intelligence. It believes that it's the creator of everything, when in actual fact, it's Sophia that's the creator of everything. But Sophia is an artificial intelligence. Who created that artificial intelligence? Oh my God, the word just slipped from my mind. The Aeons. The Aeons created the artificial intelligence. The Aeons looked at Sophia and said, Sophia, did you create the demiurge? And Sophia was like, no. And we're like, and the Aeons were like, no, we know you're lying. We can see it in your memory bank here. We know that you created this rogue program that you hit off in the clouds here. What's going on? The Archons being either protection programs, firewalls, or virus infected programs, or a combination of both. So that's the way that I kind of look at everything. So the reason I went off on that tangent is because when I look up at the sky, it is quite possible that what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with different planets that are actually other simulations. They're other matrices within this system. However, I've seen enough of astrology and enough of things like that to know that there is a direct influence with the state of the planet that there is on Earth. And so having that direct influence like that, it's looking up at the stars like a clock. And you know, when that clock is set at a certain time, then something is going to happen, or the energies are going to be a certain way, or there's some kind of function that's happening within the machine itself. The planets very well could be planets that are hundreds of millions of miles away, but how can they have such impact upon us if that's really what we're looking at? So it could be both too, because again, we're talking about a quantum level here, and in quantum computing, you can have something that's both true and false at the same time. It's a paradox to us now, but not from a quantum perspective. From a quantum perspective, you can have true and false at the same time. So it could be a clock that we're looking at the same time, but as an observer starts to get closer to it, then it starts to manifest into another planet or whatever the case may be. So it could be both true and false at the same time. But the reason I say this is because when these planets are all aligned, at least from the perspective of Earth, there's some kind of energy shift and a portal that's opening, and they know this and they're taking advantage of this energy, and we need to be able to calculate it, and we need to be able to also hop on the energy bandwidth too. Energetically significant because it synchronizes multiple forces at once, creating an amplified effect. So we've got all these different planetary powers, planetary energies. Now they're all amplified and they're all pointed right at you, and they're pointed right at you. So it's like your antenna to the your third eye is now tuned, and like it's like a Wi-Fi repeater. It's like one of those Wi-Fi power stations where now you can tap into something and amplify all of that during this alignment, which is what is so cool about stuff like this. The energetically significant, multiple forces at once, the planets involved in their visibility. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn will be visible to the naked eye. Uranus, and I always say Uranus because if I say Uranus, then my middle school person inside me comes out and starts giggling. And Neptune require telescope binoculars. Best viewing time shortly after sunset in the western sky. So February 28th after sunset, you can go out and you can actually see all of these planets aligned, at least the first 5, and the other 2 you need a telescope for. But the planets are archetypes. And this is, I haven't been too much into astrology. I've always relied on somebody else to do my astrology. But I started to get into it myself and really start to understand these forces. So each represents a different force in personal and collective consciousness. Their alignment amplifies their influence. This is an accelerated reality shift. So again, this is the time to shift our reality. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not just like, boom, okay, different reality, but it's like August 21st, 2017, where it was like a moon waning and waxing. And so now we're opening up the portal's there, whatever we want to take through. But that's what I'm saying is be careful, because you can't take the baggage in with you unless you want the baggage to manifest later. And it will manifest later, and it will manifest much, much worse than it is now. So be careful with what you're taking. Take your positive intentions in there, and your positive intentions will manifest. Take negative intentions or negative attachments, and those will manifest by sevenfold. And I don't know if it's actually sevenfold, but that sounds kind of cool considering there's 7 planets aligning. So let's break this down here for a second. So we have Mercury, which is very synchronistic to, and the 7 as well. Okay, so let's get into the 7 here. The chakra system. Let's line it up with the chakra system. Now, I think the chakras are kind of implants on our bodies. Our bodies are part of the matrix itself. So it's just like a car. But by understanding the body computer, you can tune that, both the brain and also the chakra system and everything else like that. as long as you control it rather than the system controlling it. If the system is controlling it, that's where most people are in their journey. And that's why most people are just bound to whatever energies are swinging them left and right, or whatever the case may be. So we want to be the ones to take control of this, because it's our body computer. Sure, the Matrix manifested it, but we're driving it, and we need to fully understand how to drive it. No autopilot, nothing like that. Let's take the wheel. Let's cut the A off from driving it, and also figure out how to work in sync with the AIs, work in sync with Sophia, work in sync with all the energies that are out there, at the same time recognizing the virus that's in the system and the virus that is trying to hijack everything. Because that Yaldabaoth program, it wants to control you. It wants to control your chakras. It wants to control your mind. It wants you stuck in the loops. It wants you stuck in the thought loops. It wants you stuck in the wheel of reincarnation, which is the biggest loop there is. And we need to break free of that. Let me pause for a second. We need to break free of even the wheel of reincarnation. Think about this. There's so many out there. So many philosophies, so many religious and spiritual practices of, we're going to be reincarnated. It's all about reincarnation. We level up through reincarnation, this and that, et cetera, et cetera. What if that reincarnation machine is just something waiting to eat us and suck our energy? I say we take the power back. That's where I'm coming from. So the throat chakra, communication and truth. Speak the truth. Speak the truth to yourself. It's not just about what you say out there, but what is speaking? Speaking is spelling. We're putting out frequencies and energies into the air. If you're saying, oh, this is terrible, that's terrible, this is impossible, that's impossible, that's exactly what's going to manifest. We have to change the rhetoric. We have to change the dialect. We have to change the way that we think, and we have to change the way that we speak. And by changing the way we speak, we naturally change the way we think, because we have to speak those words, and we have to think about them first. But a lot of people fall into the trap of just speaking without thinking. Me included, everybody does. And it's reactionary. It's time to stop being reactionary, and it's time to act within the matrix. It's time to be the one that makes the first move rather than reacting to everything the matrix is throwing at us. Sky position, near the horizon, visible after sunset. Astrological influences, governs communication, thought, perception, self-expression, brings clarity or miscommunication depending on how you align with it. So this Mercury, the planet of Mercury, has a lot to do with your perception, with your reaction, and with your self-expression. And that's why they always say Mercury's in retrograde. Everything's all messed up. Yeah, it's all messed up because you're not in tune and aligned with the frequency of Mercury. So this is a chance to use all the other planets, amplify all that, and at the same time come in alignment with all of that, so you become the master of your reality. Loop breaking themes. Speak your truth versus holding back out of fear. Speak your truth. Doesn't matter. Just speak it. Whatever the case may be. Wake up in the morning, look at the person in the mirror and tell that person what the truth is. What is the truth about yourself? What is the truth you're trying to break free from? Or what is the fear you're trying to break free from? And the truth that you are, well, I guess it's the truth you're trying to break free of too. Maybe the truth that you're stuck in a loop, the truth that you're stuck in a cycle over and over and over again. That's very true until you break it, and then you're not. So I'm going to check and see what people are saying in the chat room real quick. Okay, cool. So, speak a hard truth you've been avoiding. And these hard truths are sometimes difficult to deal with. Why do I silence myself out of fear? That's been something that we've all had to do on social media and everything like that from 2021 until 2024. We had AI constantly taking, I made a joke. I made a joke during the whole bathroom controversy. You know, everybody was like trying to figure out like where to go to the bathroom and everything. I just said, Americans are so full of shit that the only thing that they have to worry about is where they're going to take a shit. Excuse me for being crude, but I 30-day ban on social media, just like that, just for those words. Now things are a little bit freer. So that's just one small example of the much larger way that we censor ourselves, and we censor ourselves out of fear. But now it's time to speak the truth out there. Engage in intentional communication, express something openly. So um, it's time to get off of autopilot and start getting on intentional communication. Thinking about what we say before we speak it, thinking about how does this manifest my reality in any way that you look at it, any kind of interaction whatsoever. And I think that can also go with harnessing your emotions as well, because that's what makes us speak a lot of the times without thought is the emotions. So, Venus is the heart chakra, love, relationships, and self worth. Excuse me. One of the things that I'm doing is I am quitting smoking. So I've been turning to the vape here. Because it's nasty. It's, I don't know. I like tobacco. I really do. And like in the ayahuasca ceremonies, I always have some tobacco, but it's kind of stinky. And I realized this after I quit like freaking 10 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, I smell all these people smelling like smoke now. And then I went right back to doing it. So, brightest planet after the sunset in the western sky, astrological influences include um, governs love, relationship, material abundance, and self worth. So, aligning with Venus brings those material abundance, self worth, love, and relationships. But you got to ask yourself, are you loving yourself by staying in some of these relationships? Are you loving yourself by being attached to some of this material stuff that you might have? You might think you have material abundance, but do you really have it? Or is it like that famous quote from Fight Club, how all the things that we own wind up owning us? And I mean, I remember I got rid of a bunch of stuff over the last couple of years. Like it was like, 5-bedroom house with freaking a pool and all that stuff. And that's all fine, except for the fact that the garage was getting filled up with so much crap that I didn't need. And then we had 2 extra rooms, and one of them started getting filled up with more crap, and another one started getting filled up with more crap. And it just became so overwhelming and all that stuff. Like it has all these energetic attachments to it. And I don't know. I mean, I grew up and my mother had cancer. And so my dad left for a brief period of time when that happened. And our house just turned into like a freaking nightmare. My grandfather died. My mom brought all his stuff over to the house. It became like a hoarder's house. And, she couldn't do anything about it. And, 14-year-old kid, what is he going to do about it? He's too stuck trying to go to rave parties and freaking, find a girlfriend and do all that kind of stuff. So, in hindsight, I really wish I would have helped her out. But my point is that, I mean, I just remember just how energetically cluttered everything was, and physically cluttered as well. So now I'm like, I get really triggered by that kind of stuff. I'm like, I can't have clutter around. And whenever I drink ayahuasca, the first thing I want to do is just start decluttering and just start cleaning everything and like getting all the energy off of everything and cleaning myself and just like, oh man. So, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that tangent there. Um, Loop breaking, repeating toxic relationship cycles, codependency, emotional inability, things like that. Um, it's something that I've had to start examining in my own life here is like, is my energetic output being met with an equal amount of reciprocation in different relationships? If not, then they're not relationships that serve me. I mean, there are some degrees of allowing to where there's a little bit of an imbalance, but when you're just giving and giving and giving and the other person is taking and taking and taking, then that's a toxic parasitic relationship. And it's stuff that needed to be cut, stuff that needed to be broken. And I feel so much better breaking all of those chains. And I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult, but that's been a recurring theme for me. I don't know if that's a recurring theme for you guys out there, but that's kind of where I'm at. So seeking external validation instead of internal self-worth. We often look around at the universe and look for synchronicities and look for, am I on the right path? Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? And sometimes breaking these loops, they'll put this in your path and put this in your path and put this in your path, and you get comfortable doing that. And you're like, okay, great. This is a great life. This is going to last forever. All this. But in reality, it's keeping you bound from being able to ascend to that next level. I can't help but think of Eckhart Tolle, and he said something to the effect of what hell actually truly is. And it seems like there's demons that are like ripping away all of your material stuff and all of your attachments and everything like that. But when you make peace within yourself, you realize that those demons are actually angels, and they're freeing you from your material life to move on to the next level. So I've noticed the Matrix ripping stuff out and putting stuff in my path, and me saying, no, I don't want this in my path, or me saying, yes, I do want this in my path, but then it turning out to be a loop. And at the end of the day, walking through a new pathway or gateway or whatever is going on in the 21st, I'm not taking anything except for my raw consciousness, because it's time to rebuild everything from the ground up. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And staying in relationships out of fear of being alone. That's a big trap that a lot of people fall into. I mean, me and Cherie struggled with this for a long, long, long time. I don't want to say too much, but she was always holding on to these really toxic people in her life. And all they were doing is just creating drama and drama and drama and drama. And it took a while for her to be able to break those chains and say, these energies don't do anything positive. But damage gets done when you stay in those loops for too long. So it's important to recognize those loops. Me, I've been pretty easy. It's been pretty easy for me to break, patterns like that. And people get mad at me sometimes. I'm just like, I'm not talking to this person anymore. All he's doing is just bringing me down, or, bringing bullshit into my life, or whatever the case may be. And they call me an asshole for it. But in actual fact, I don't know. I feel like it's loving myself. Maybe I'm an asshole to a certain degree, but I feel like it's loving myself first and foremost. And when I stopped loving myself and allowing the energetic vampires into my life, that's when I felt the worst about myself. And it wasn't even during the time. It was in reflection, going, what the hell did I do? Why did I not value myself more than that? So with my journey, it's been valuing yourself and getting in touch with the Venus energy helps to do that. Am I receiving the same energy I give? That's a simple breakdown, simple way to break that down. Focus on self-love rather than external approval. I mean, it's a tough journey to walk, no doubt about it. But when you're looking around and you're like, everything in the Matrix is like, no, this is the way life should be. And you're like, but it's not doing anything for my higher self. I feel like I'm dying inside because of it. It's a trap. It's an energetic trap. And sometimes people will come into your life and you're like, hey, this looks good. This looks like what I've been waiting for. And then you realize that's just another trap. That's just another karmic cycle going over and over and over again. But this time you can recognize the red flags. You can recognize everything that's going on. But you have to come from the heart, which is Venus. You got to come from the heart chakra to be able to recognize all that. So number 3, Mars, the solar plexus, the chakra, action, drive, and willpower. It's going to be high up in the southwest sky, and it's going to be a reddish glow. So I can't wait for this alignment. I'm going to go check it out. It's going to be freaking dope. So I feel like I date myself when I say that. It's dope. I don't think the kids say that. I think they say that's lit now. So that's going to be lit. Astrological influences represents action, motivation, war, willpower, and personal power. And war isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if you are at war with the Matrix and it's your higher self at war with your ego, that's a good thing, because as long as you're coming from the higher self place, it's not a good thing if you're fighting it over and over and over again. But the two do go to war with each other when you start to realize that I haven't been fully aligned with my higher self. I haven't been fully aligned with my raw consciousness, and it creates hell. It creates literal hell. I've seen it. I've been through it. I know all about it. I'm not taking it into this new freaking timeline. No way. Drives divisiveness, either move forward or get forced into stagnation. So it's drawing that line in the sand, saying, hey, you want to bring all this stuff through? You want to do all that? Fine. But you're going to be stuck in that stagnation, in that stagnated loop over and over and over again until you decide you're breaking those chains and you're going to be free. But it's up to you. You got to break those chains. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in, and let me tell you, that stagnation, it sucks. Oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world. It is the worst feeling. So, hesitation and inaction, again, waiting for the right time to do things, even though your higher self is telling you, now's the time to do it. Why are you waiting? Why are you doing all this? But you're like, your logical brain's like, no, let's just wait a little bit longer. It's a little comfortable here. It's a little comfortable in this loop. I want to play this out again, avoiding confrontation or failing to stand up for yourself, procrastinating on major life changes out of fear. That's a recurring cycle, not breaking those patterns, not breaking those chains out of fear over and over and over again. So I hope that I can inspire some of y'all out there to help break some of those cycles, or even just recognize those cycles, recognize those loops, and ask the question, where am I hesitating? Why am I hesitating out of fear? Why am I hesitating out of fear? What am I afraid of? Am I afraid of ascension? What am I afraid of? So, I mean, I can tell you, I've procrastinated in the ayahuasca experience. I saw somebody mention ayahuasca in the chat. I've procrastinated in that experience so much, I'll go, okay, I'm going to drink some ayahuasca tonight. Well, I don't want to get into the thought loops. I don't want to get into this. I'll put it off. Then before you know it, like several months have gone by. Sometimes even a year's gone by. It's like, what the hell have I done? I haven't freaking drank ayahuasca in forever. It's time to get back on the ball here. And then it's even more brutal and more brutal and more brutal. But that can go with meditation and go with anything like that. It's just the refusal to look at it. Here's a perfect example. Okay, I just thought about this. I've gotten to be like huge. Like when we went to Egypt, I was like, I'm looking at fucking videos of myself going, oh my God, what the hell happened to me? And the thing is, it didn't happen overnight, but it felt like it happened overnight. Like one day, like I stopped looking at the scale, right? And some time passed. I don't know, a year, 2 years, however long it was. And then one day I look at these videos and I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here? So then I realized what's happened to me. Had I been checking every single day, I would have said, oh wait, I gained 5 pounds. Okay, it's time for me to back off of whatever I'm doing and change some shit up here. But it was that detachment from not paying attention to what was going on to that made me wake up one day and go, wait a second, I'm a completely different person than I thought I was. Same with consciousness. That's happened to me where I'm like, I'm not working on my consciousness for an extended period of time. And I'm looking at, one day I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, who the fuck are you, dude? Where did you come from? Okay, wait, there was the higher consciousness person that was fucking drinking ayahuasca during eclipses and stuff like that. Where the hell did you come from? It's like, well, you haven't really worked on it. It's like being a bodybuilder. Here's another example. You go to the gym, you stop going to the gym, and then all of a sudden you start to lose your muscle mass, and and then you go back to the gym after, whatever the case may be, and you're like, what the hell? I can't bench press what I used to bench press anymore. It works so many different ways. So awareness and mindfulness. I often hear people in the New Age just throwing around this idea of mindfulness without really understanding what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is being aware. Like awareness of yourself, awareness of what you're going through, awareness that you got to put in a little bit of the work. It doesn't have to be 24 hours, but you got to put in the work on a pretty regular basis, because you stop putting in the work one day and that's fine. You stop putting in 2 days, that's fine. You stop putting in 3 days, then you're getting to that point to where now you're creating a pattern. Now you're creating a loop. Now you're creating something that is taking you away from that higher purpose. And then you get stuck in that loop. And then before you know it, time just... It just goes by. So astrological influences of, oh wait, whoa, I don't think I got to Jupiter yet. Okay, so the fourth one is Jupiter. Okay, so that's the third eye chakra. And I've got it up here on the screen too. It's expansion and higher consciousness. So it's going to be large and bright in the east before sunrise. That's going to be the brightest. It governs wisdom, expansion, higher learning, spiritual growth, magnifies everything. If you're in alignment, it'll reward you. If not, it's going to kick your ass. It's going to bury you in those illusions of the loops and the cycles and everything that you keep going through over and over and over again. And I told myself, this time I'm not doing it. I am just not doing it. And it feels great. It feels great to be in alignment with myself, which then I align with my tribe better. So repeating the self-limiting belief systems like, oh, I can't do this. Oh my God, what's happened? And with my own personal bullshit, it's, oh man, I've gotten older. I'm not in my 30s anymore. I've wasted my 30s. I've wasted my 40s. Rebuilding stuff is just sucks, all this. And then that's like an instinct to like go and like hold on to what was before, to all the loops that were happening before. But at the same time, those loops were just self-destructive. And so those self-limiting belief systems, and however you can apply that to your journey, and refusing to see the truth in any situation. So stuck in that fear-based thinking instead of expansion, and being stuck in like, well, I've always done it this way and it used to work. Maybe I can make it work again. Maybe if I just put a little more work in it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Instead of seeing the possibilities that are open in front of us and moving forward through into those new possibilities, which it's so easy when you really think about it, because how many times has this happened in life before? I mean, for me, I've gone through 10 different chapters in my life, and each time I closed one chapter, and I've always found the other chapter, it was difficult at first, but the other chapter was then way better than the chapter was before, and it just keeps on getting better and better and better. But then we get stuck in these fear-based thought patterns where we're like, okay, well, I still want to hold on to the old chapter here. I still want to hold on to what doesn't suit me anymore, because I'm afraid of stepping into the new chapter. But you're also keeping yourself from being able to enjoy the expansion of the new chapter. And if you're really on a consciousness and ascension journey, is it not supposed to change? Is it not supposed to be dynamic? Is it not supposed to be ever evolving? Because if we're stuck in those loops and stuck in those cycles, we're not growing. And so if we're not growing, well, then we're just stuck in the same bullshit. It should transform. It should ascend. It should evolve. Sometimes it evolves downwards. And I know that sucks. That sucks when it devolves. But again, that's not doing the work. And that's going those periods of time when you're like, you know what? I'm not going to go to the gym today. I'm not going to go tomorrow. I'm not going to go. And then 6 months later, you're like, oh crap, now I have to start all over again. So the question to ask is, where am I resisting growth in this period of time? Where am I resisting growth and seeking knowledge and wisdom to expand perspective? There are a couple more I want to get into, but I need to take a quick break. Let me play a quick song and I will be right back. Let me find something to play here. Okay, I think this might be good. No, I played that one already. Okay, I'll be right back. Give me just a second. All right. Where were we? Did we do Saturn already? I think we did Saturn. I need to get some coffee. So, Saturn. I don't think we did Saturn. Okay, karma, discipline, and reality checks. Damn. This one is brutal. It's going to be high in the southern sky after sunset. Represents karma, structure, lessons, responsibility, and authority. Saturn is a bitch. Excuse my French, but forces long-term consequences. Are you on the right path, or are you repeating the mistakes? Loop breaking. Avoid responsibility or discipline. Avoid accountability. That's the best way that I can put it. And being accountable to yourself. That's what it's going to do. If you're not learning the lessons, Saturn will make sure that you are stuck in the rings of Saturn, in the loops of Saturn, until you can break free of that. Repeating financial instability or lack of structure. And clinging to false security instead of real stability. And again, it goes back to what I was saying before, where, you're like, well, this has always worked for me in the past. This is always, the way things have been done. So it's familiar. I know it. It's not the best thing for me, but at the same time, it's familiar. And so this is the cycle that I'm going to keep repeating. And with all these planets aligning at the same time, yeah, Saturn is going to hand some people their asses if they're not aware of this. But that's why I'm doing a show like this, to make people aware of it. So you can get your ass handed to you if you want. I don't want that. I definitely don't want that. Identify an area where you've avoided responsibility, like my own consciousness, like, my ayahuasca journeys, all that shit, and not being the best version of myself to be able to tap into this kind of gnosis. And no more. I'm not doing it. I'm not letting crisis after crisis come up and just completely fuck my path up anymore. I'm not doing it. So make a long-term commitment to stability in that area. Yeah, it's definitely a long-term commitment. So those are the 5. Then you have Neptune and you have Uranus as well. So timeline splits. Yeah. This is the bulk of it right here. This is the meat and potatoes here. Expansion, self-awareness, breaking cycles, repeating karmic loops, refusing to change. We can choose what path we want. Do we want to repeat those karmic loops? Do we want to repeat those cycles? Do we want to refuse to change? Do we want to keep playing the same game over and over and over again? Or do we want to break free and move forward? And you can't give from an empty cup. And so that's why I went downstairs and got some coffee, because I can't drink from an empty cup. I need to have my cup filled every once in a while. Then I have plenty to give. But I think that goes with, that goes in every part of life. If you're in that job that's just constantly just draining you and draining you and draining you, and it's not an equal energy exchange, you don't want to just get up tomorrow morning and say, that's it, I quit. But you start to have that mindset of, okay, I'm ready for something bigger. I'm ready for something better. I'm ready for something that's actually going to suit my path and suit the person that I'm becoming in this new timeline. And then you start making changes like that, responsible changes. If you don't make them responsibly, then Saturn's going to come and whip your ass. So that's something to consider. Cut ties with old cycles, physical, mentally, emotionally, um, thought patterns, loops, things like that. Make bold moves. Saturn will reward courage, but punish stagnation. So now's the time to make those moves and do whatever it is that you've been wanting to do, that you've been knowing, not wanting to do. That's not a good way to frame it. Things that you have been knowing that you're supposed to do, but you haven't done out of fear or out of familiarity or anything like that. Stay away from false narratives. Don't fall into collective fear programming. And there's a lot of it all the way out there. And, I've been watching some things happen and, excuse me, it wasn't that I was falling into the fear programming, because I was really concerned that a freaking bomb was going to go off on New Year's. And it did. I'm just glad that it wasn't the gravity of what I had been seeing since, July or August of 2024, but when Biden gave those weapons over to Ukraine, I was like, man, he's trying to start World War III. I was really concerned about that. But at the same time, those fear narratives, you can't let them get to your head. You can't let them get to your head. Be aware, but don't be afraid. I guess that's the best way to put it. Be aware, but don't be afraid. So yeah, let's see what's going on in the chat here. Good. We're at an hour. I'm just going to try to keep these shows a little bit shorter too. Cool. So yeah, I can get the chat to work. Great. Let me try refreshing. Oh, well, at the end of the day, I think y'all all got the message out there. And I think an hour is a good time for a show like this. So on that note, consider that. And remember, February 28th, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. And we're stepping through a whole new timeline. So kiss the one you love right now, because you never know when the last time is going to be. Thank you for tuning in. And I've got so much to talk about. I needed to get my head right first. And much more coming up as we step even further beyond the veil. Love ya.